I'll start this off by saying that I realize I'm mainly preaching to the choir here. Most Trekkies I've interacted with are well aware of Star Trek's long-standing status as a vehicle for diversity and political messages. However, I think we've all encountered those who don't seem to understand that aspect of Trek, or at least they don't like acknowledging it. If you are one of those people, could you please at least watch the video before you leave a rude comment? Okay, let's start at the very beginning, with Gene Roddenberry creating Star Trek the original series, its world, and its characters. Obviously, Star Trek is set in the future, 300 years into the future from when the original series was created, to be exact. It's shown to be a time when all conflict and needless struggle on Earth has been eliminated, and humans are now free to explore the galaxy and interact with the other species they find there. As for why to give his show such a setting, Gene Roddenberry directly stated that he wanted his show to have this particular message, one that he didn't think he could as easily deliver with a show set in the past or present, as had already been proven by his previous failed TV pilots. When we see Star Trek's future world, one could argue that we're seeing how Star Trek's creator believes the real world should be. More than anything, though, we're seeing how he believes the world could be if humans celebrated their differences and acted on all their best instincts instead of their worst. This came at a time when the threat of nuclear annihilation was very real to the citizens of the world, the very worst-case scenario of what could come from the then-present geopolitical situation. People at the time needed hope, a vision of what the world could look like if the exact opposite outcome were to manifest. 300 years allows not only the technology for space travel to be developed, but for the world's problems to be resolved so that everyone has equal access to it. Rather than trying to deliver a deliberately left-wing ideology, Star Trek's ideology just happens to align most closely with leftism, more specifically, egalitarianism. Individual episodes also tend to have political and philosophical messages in addition to those of the series and franchise itself, and this too is by design. We see not only the idealistic future setting, but events that happen within it, usually involving the characters learning from the mistakes of history and not allowing them to be repeated, something that people in real life can and should do. All of this was, and still is, conducted with the awareness that fiction can and does influence how people see the real world, even if subconsciously. As humans, we model what we do after seeing others do it, including fictional characters. One notable example is Nichelle Nichols' portrayal of Lieutenant Uhura directly inspiring many women of color in real life to pursue careers in space and other scientific industries. Before, it had been difficult for them to imagine someone who looked like them doing such a thing, but even seeing a fictional woman doing so in a future setting made them believe that they could do it in the present. The real-life future will be built on the real-life present, after all. Another example is Star Trek fans of mixed race being able to relate to Spock being half human and half Vulcan, and feeling caught in between the two sides of his heritage. Leonard Nimoy, who played Spock, acknowledged this in his responses to these fans who wrote to him about their experiences. Nimoy himself also knew what it was like to be a social outcast, since he was raised Jewish in a predominantly Catholic city and faced bullying from his peers because of that, just like the character Spock was bullied by his Vulcan peers for having human heritage. I made an entire video about Spock being relatable to neurodivergent people, including myself. When you're going through something difficult, it can be made worse by feeling like you're alone in your struggles and being reminded that you're not, or even seeing a similar experience depicted in fiction can be extremely validating and a step towards self-acceptance. The show having this kind of positive impact was what Gene Roddenberry wanted from the very beginning. His decision to include a black woman, Asian man, and Russian man all working together on the bridge of a starship was no accident. He seemed to understand that the matter was not only a question of why to include these characters of all different backgrounds, but also why not. In the future, why would people have the same prejudices they did in the present to the point where this kind of collaboration would seem improbable? And why shouldn't viewers from marginalized groups get to see people who look like them and experience life as they do on screen? This idea carries even more into all the rest of the Star Trek series following TOS. Starfleet includes a diverse group of different species in its service, so why not a diverse group of humans as well? Some people consider this kind of representation as being shoved down their throats, but that's only because certain portrayals haven't been as common in media for very long yet. Audience members who react negatively to these depictions would do well to remember that it's not always about them, or at least about only them, and not people who happen to be different than they are. You can't directly know what it's like to be a social minority if you're not one, but you can learn to sympathize with those who are. Even still, people will ask why Star Trek, or any piece of media, has to be political. The answer, aside from everything I've explained thus far, is that it's pretty much inevitable. Contemporary art portrays the societal values of the time when it was created, a truth which has remained consistent throughout all of human history. Additionally, many things in real life are political, whether they should be or not, and whether we would like them to be or not. Portraying people from different groups as equal to one another is considered political because there are those who believe that all people are not equal. A setting where all people have access to all their needs is considered political because it is not the status quo and because of all the factors that keep it from being that way. The only way to make it so that these things are not considered political is to actively make the world a better place for everyone, which media like Star Trek seeks to directly inspire us to do. Let's look at one Star Trek series that is particularly targeted by naysayers as being too woke: Discovery. This series notably has a black woman as its protagonist, an Asian woman as captain of a starship, two of its main cast members being a gay married couple, a character whose body type would not be described as thin, several neurodivergent coded characters, and later introducing a genderqueer character who uses they/them pronouns, as well as a transgender boy character. Once again, we should return to the idea of not only asking why, but why not? Why shouldn't women of color get to see people like them depicted in positions of authority? Why shouldn't people from all walks of life see their identities and experiences validated? Is it being shoved down people's throats, or is it just revolutionary, exactly like the original series was for its time? Some people claim that modern Star Trek shows, as opposed to the classic ones, are less subtle about their moral lessons, beating the audience over the head with their messages. It's definitely worth asking if this is simply an example of being blinded by nostalgia. Aside from that, past Trek's messaging being subliminal rather than overt would seemingly cause some audience members to miss it completely, so it makes sense that the response would be making it instead impossible to ignore. Modern Trek shows are also given fewer episodes than past series were, so their story beats pretty much have to be more prominent if they're going to be present at all. Maybe certain people find the diversity depicted depicted in TV and film to be forced or unrealistic simply because they haven't interacted with diverse individuals or groups in their real lives. Such people likely also don't take the time to learn about the rest of the world outside their own inner circle. A franchise being more inclusive doesn't mean it's trying to exclude anyone. Privileged groups like straight white men still have a place in the Star Trek universe, but the franchise never has been and never will be exclusively for them. Diversity has always been and will always be a central tenet of Star Trek. Star Trek wants us all, as individuals and as the human race, to always work towards being a better version of ourselves in ways both big and small. Anyone who's not willing to do so, however, can simply find something else to watch and another community to interact with. I usually end my videos by asking my audience what they think of the discussion topic, but I'm a bit hesitant to do so now because I already know that there will be dissidents who make their opinions known to me on no uncertain terms. I'm doubtful that this video will actually change the mind of anyone who disagrees with my stance, but I felt compelled to make it anyway. In any case, thank you for watching this video, especially if you've engaged with it positively by leaving a like, sharing it, or being nice in the comments. I've got some other videos on Star Trek and plenty of other media if you want to hear what else I have to say. Live long and prosper, and I'll see you next time.